Starting at Dave Gerald's shop and house.
Hi YouTube, thanks for coming back. This is our third episode of our restoration vlog for the 1931 Model A Woody wagon I'm doing with my father-in-law. And today we are going to show you the footage we shot when we brought the engine down to Dave Gerald at Durable Performance in Jordan, Minnesota. The video is maybe a little bit longer and pretty detailed. It was really impressive how much this Dave guy knows about Model A engines and about the restoration process. So if you're interested in that, please help me out with the YouTube algorithms and like the video. It really helps us. But if you want to skip it to the end and just kind of view some of the footage that we shot, he really goes through pretty thoroughly what he's going to do with the engine and what the cost is. So come along with us and watch as we drop this engine off.
Well, it's a big day. We loaded up the 4 engines and we are going to be taking these down to Dave Gerald, who lives down in Jordan. He's got a shop and that's what he does, is he rebuilds Model A engines. Dave said that he would take the other engines and give me a credit toward the rebuild, which will be great. The engines are probably fine. They just need to be redone, and he can do that along with the other things that he's doing. So once we get the engine rebuilt, then we can actually continue on rebuilding the chassis, getting that all put together and ready to go. And then once we get the chassis put together, then we can actually start doing the wood body. So that'll work out really well. So we're excited about it. And so it's kind of a big day. Nolan, our grandson, is also coming along with, and he's going to be part of the process. And it's just fun to get the whole family involved.
What do you say? Let's go.
Hey, we are ready.
You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
We're on our way.
You can actually pull around,
Okay.
and then that'll allow you a better angle at pulling in.
All right, great.
Yeah, you're good, Tim. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. Have you ever tried turning them over?
Yes, they turn.
They both turn over. Okay, good. Well, that's a win-win right there.
Yeah, they both turn.
I'm Dave Gerald. I run a little business called Durable Performance, and I specialize in rebuilding Model A engines with insert bearings. So putting new components inside the old engine block. I reuse the existing crankshafts, have those reground and set up for our insert bearings, specific sizes. And then we machine the block for the insert bearings, and we usually install brand new insert bearing connecting rods, new pistons, reground or new camshafts, and then other new gearing on the inside to make them real reliable. So I typically build road engines for people that drive their cars a lot.
Sure. So talk us through a little bit. We've dropped off 4 engines, not necessarily 4 complete engines, but what's your plan here to get us to where we need to be on the engine for our 31 sedan?
Well, we'll probably, those 2 being complete engines, one of those will be the candidate for the rebuild, most likely candidate for the rebuild. But you never know until you open them up and break them down what you are working with. There could be cracks that could be mendable or fatal to the block. And of course, we need to. We always want to pick out the best block we can for your project. So process: we break them down, we disassemble them, we crack check them, and then we run them through a hot tank, a caustic hot tank, to degrease them. And then they get put into an automotive washing machine, which makes them squeaky clean, really. And then we take them to a shot blasting machine and run them through the machine. And when they come out, they look like brand new casting. They're really clean. And then at that point, before we even touch them only with clean hands or with gloved hands, we paint them. We put the first coat of paint on the raw casting, and that sticks really well. There's no grease or anything that's on that surface. And then at that point, we do the prep work we need to send them to the machining center, and then they're machined. And of course, with the paint covering on there, it keeps the machining oil from soaking into the cast iron, so that in the end, when the engine's assembled, it's given another coat of paint after scuffing, and then the paint on them lasts years and years. So it's a good process.
Do you have a couple engines here? It looked like there's some over here that were pretty much ready for delivery. Do you have some in various stages that we might be able to see? Just
I have a touring engine over here that we could look at. This is an engine that was brought in for rebuild, and this one is set up on the engine stand for running. He said it runs fine, no noise, but he said it has no power. So I'm hesitant to fix it if it isn't broken. I want to save the gentleman money if I possibly can. So I put it on the run-in stand, and I'm going to mount it up to the break-in components. I'm going to warm it up, do a compression test, do a individual cylinder leak down test, and then while it's running, I'll hook it up to a vacuum gauge and study what's going on the engine. And then from there, I'll know whether I even need to do anything with it. I have a dyno that I put these engines on so I can actually load test them, so I can tell what kind of horsepower I'm getting out of them. You know, it can run smooth, but it may not be putting out much power. And when I put my bench distributor and my carburetor on it, I have known factors for testing, so I can tell exactly what's going on the engine. And then here's our touring engine. This one is set up with a filtration system, extra oil porting, high output camshaft, virtually everything in it, Lighten flywheel, V8 clutch, virtually everything you can do to get some more horsepower out of it. This one was putting out, and this is really kind of a mild build, this one is putting out about 65 horsepower with a 6-to-1 Snyder higher compression head. This engine is almost identical to what I run in my Phaeton, the car that I use mostly for touring. It has exhaust valve rotators, larger intake valves.
so, Dave, tell me a little bit just about cost. Obviously, you know, people watch the channel sometimes getting ideas to be able to maybe restore their own car, and just thinking, hey, I might try and do some of this stuff myself. But then we just felt like it was a value to have, especially the engine and drivetrain components done by somebody who knows what they're doing. How many have you done? And ballpark, depending on what people need, what's the average kind of cost for somebody to get an engine overhauled here?
I've completed over 200 full engine builds using insert bearing technology. Cost range, it's about $2,500 for a short block, which I do just the basic machining on the block, and then you take it and finish assembly. That gives you a machine block, the insert main bearings, a reground original cam shaft, new cam gear, new crank gear, all the insert bearings, the fitting, and the assembly, the sealing of the rear cap so that there aren't leaks, and then you take it and you put on your own head, your covers, all the covers, and put on the engine pan. I would say that only about 10% of my engines are like that. On my Phaeton, which is a knockoff of this engine, that engine was done, I'm just thinking now, it was probably done 18 years ago, and I have 98,000 miles on that engine, and I've never even had the pan off. But there's no knock, no oil leaks. At 100,000 miles, I'm going to open it up. I've committed to doing that, so I know what's going on.
So 2,500 kind of for the basic, and then if you want the full meal deal, you go through, do everything.
Yeah, if a 2,500 for a short block, and that's just assemble it yourself. About 3,500 for a long block, which is assembled somewhat to this state, and run on the dyno. Run in on the dyno for 2 to 3 hours under load to break it in, and then that's for like more of a standard build. When you get into these real high performance ones, this one here is probably the top of the line. This runs $6,700 for an engine like this, and like I say, this one will go. I bet this one will go 100,000 miles just like mine did, without ever touching it. And when people come in and they drop their product off to me, of course we discuss what they want, and then I put together, based on what they're wanting the engine to do, I put together what's called a build specification, and it's basically a listing of everything that goes into the engine, and then of course I send that off to them, and they approve it or request changes. I don't do anything until I get a signature on the bottom saying that that's what they want to do, and at that point then it goes in for machining. So we agree on everything up front, and unless something unusual happens along the way that we discover a hidden crack or something, that then it's the price that we talk about up front is what the price is at the end.
So then on ours, Father Tim, we're coming away with a Bugatti V16 or W16 engine, right? For the what's the plan? Joking aside, what's the plan for our motor here?
That we have to discuss.
Yeah.
What you want to do. We really need to discuss what you want the engine to do, what you plan to do with the car, how much you plan to drive it, and at what speeds you want to drive it. You know, the average Model A, you probably should be keeping around 50 miles an hour with the average gearing in it, 50, 55. And you can run them, you can drive them faster than that. They'll spin up faster than that, but with standard, without doing something special to the valves, running at a high RPM, you will deteriorate. The valves will overheat. These engines will pull a Model A down the road at 80 miles an hour, but that's not wise to do that for very long. These are a stack of blocks that are machined already. I could get this one down off the shelf. We could take a look at it. This is a block that's been machined and is ready to assemble. It hasn't been cleaned up yet. You see the machining metal cuttings in it yet. The main bearings have been a line bored so that everything's perfectly straight and to a particular internal diameter that we need for the insert bearings. The rear cap has been machined. You can see the back of it has a full circle thrust pocket that we actually install these little bronze washers in there to form a full circle. They end up going in here into that recessed machine area. Two of them. Bottom ones get pinned so they can't spin. And then we put a third one on the front side. We actually machine the block part of it, and that goes in here, and then the cap, being not machined, keeps that from spinning. Then I'll turn this over. In here you can see the one-piece guides. You'll see they're sticking down into the valve chamber, and then they go up. They're visible through the intake and exhaust ports. That's what supports the valves. We put in modern straight stem valves instead of the mushroom base original valves. And then we go with larger diameter intake valves. It allows the engine to breathe a little bit better. And then we put hardened seats in the exhaust valves while we're machining it. Putting in the hardened seats gets the seat location up high where it was originally when the block was new. And then with putting the larger valves in, we're out into new metal, so we can get the valve up high too. So it makes the engine breathe better, and it allows the valves to cool adequately. I have the cylinders honed to fit right away. We go 3 to 4 thousandths depending on what service you're going to be putting your engine into.
So Tim, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but it seems like we've chosen the right guy to help with the build on the motor, huh?
Well, everyone that I know has had Dave do their engines for them, and it's the right thing to do. Yeah.
I joined the Model A Club many years back, fell in with a group of people that are wonderful, great friends, and great touring people that love to tour. So hopefully we can get through this virus thing and get back on the road.
Maybe we'll get to tour with you sometime.
That would be awesome.
Let me show you a little bit of what goes in them. These are the aftermarket insert bearing rods. These are manufactured by antique engine rebuilders out of Skokie, Illinois. These are the insert bearing shells that go into these rods. And then these are the main bearings that go in. The wide ones are the rear main, and the narrow ones are the front and center. And of course they have the whole oil slot in there. And then the actual oil feed is that oval or elongated hole there. This is a dipper system that feeds oil into the radial groove in these also. Every time that dipper dips into the tray on the oil pan, it forces some oil. It creates a pulse of oil pressure in there. And yes, some of that oil that's within that bearing is forced out through the top, which is then thrown up into the cylinder. This allows it to breathe and allows it to fill up with oil each time it scoops down into the dipper tray. And of course, it's the oil mist inside the engine that keeps the camshaft lubricated, keeps the lifters and valve guides lubricated. And then we use a standard oil seal on the back. And then these are the pistons that we use. I buy these from Snyder's. They're cam ground and sized. This happens to be a 60 thousandths. It's marked on top always with whatever the sizing is. And these are well fit. I virtually have to do almost no fitting between the pin. The bushings come pre-fit, and of course the pins are always fit to the pistons, so very little adjustment on the top side. Some adjustment is needed on the lower side because I'm very particular about what my oil clearances are. I want 1 3/4 thousandths on the connecting rod bearings, and on the main bearings I want 1 3/4 to 2 thousandths on the front and center bearing, and I want 2 1/4 thousandths on the rear.
Well, Dave, we thank you for taking the time to kind of show us a little bit about the process here. You said you're fairly well known in the Midwest anyways when it comes to the Model A community, but if folks wanted to have a motor redone or wanted to reach out, what's the best way to have them engage?
Probably go to my website, and then my email is on that website along with my telephone number.
Awesome. Dave, thanks so much. We're looking forward to seeing how this comes out.
Yeah, it'll take take a couple weeks to break the engines down and report back what their condition is, and then from there, once they enter the machining process, it's 6 to 8 weeks to have an engine finished.
Great. Well, we'll hope to maybe come back at some point when we're getting it picked up, and you can take us through what we did. Sure,
Be glad to, and I could even leave it on the engine stand, and you could come back and hear it run.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I'd love it. All right, Dave, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right,
Great.
Signing off.
Excited, yes.
You excited? Oh, yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed that thorough video. Dave really knows what he's talking about. In the meantime, Tim has been disassembling the car and starting to work on sandblasting some of the parts and stuff. So we should have some footage with that fairly soon for you in episode 4. But thanks again for following us along. Please like, share, subscribe. We appreciate you, and we'll see you again soon.